The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit givestarquest.com. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. Joining me today on the panel is Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks. Our topic today is a really interesting one with Google I/O, their big annual event where they reveal their plans for software and hardware in the next year. Was recently, and so we want to dig into that and get into all of the very interesting stuff that they are planning to do that they announced. Before we get to that, I do want to get to some feedback we've gotten on some recent shows, and the first feedback comes from our friend Sir Cadzalot on YouTube. If in case you don't know, our show does go up on YouTube as an audio only file. So if you prefer listening through YouTube on your devices, you can hear the show there. Anyway, Sir Cadzalot is responding to our show last week about printers, why printers still stink, and which one you should buy anyway. That's not exactly the title, but it was close enough. Anyway, he says, I have literally used my 3D printer to print something out because that was less work than getting my 2D printer to connect properly or figure out what was wrong with it.
Sadly, that doesn't surprise me at all.
I mean, I suppose, especially if you like the textured surfaces of things. Oh, maybe like in Braille. That would be actually kind of interesting idea. Braille printing.
You could throw. I'm thinking you could throw an SVG file in and put a pen in the like just attach a pen to the actual
head
mount and then just let it write and.
Print out all my documents in cursive. That is an awesome idea. I want to see somebody hack that. So thanks for Kaz a lot. And then our second feedback comes from Leof 27. It came in via email. And it was a long email. I want to summarize for you, but basically we got an email from a listener who's been in the privacy tech world for several years, and he was happy to find us through our ad blocking episode and has been listening ever since. He has a bunch of recommendations from past episodes for cloud storage and Proton Drive and Ente for photos, ENTE, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. For offline maps while camping, he recommends CoMaps. For mobile security, Graphene OS on Pixel phones. For messaging, he recommends Signal with a caution against Telegram, which I think we mentioned before. For home security cameras, he mentions Frigate as a self-hosted NVR. What is NVR? Something video recorder, network video recorder.
Yeah.
Paired with a Pi hole, which is a Raspberry Pi with particular software, to block the telemetry from the cameras from phoning home. And for fitness trackers, Gadget Bridge to keep your health data off of Google's servers. So all of these are free and open source products, software and hardware that keep your data safe and secure from the big corporate overlords getting a hold of it. And then he wrapped up by thanking us for helping people navigate tech from a Catholic perspective. So there's some fodder for future episodes in his email. Yes. So and it was extensive. I was just thinking that. Yeah. I can see you look very thoughtful as I mentioned those things. So we'll definitely have to dig into some of those topics, and thank you so much for the ideas. We do love to get suggestions and ideas from you all, the listeners. All right, let's dig into our main topic, which is the Google I/O 2026. And I guess the big theme from their announcements, if you want to, kind of overarching theme, is Google is no longer treating AI as a feature in their products. It is rebuilding their entire ecosystem around AI as the operating layer. AI is going to be the base layer for everything. It's standard. It's what you can interface with. That's not too far, right? That's not too hyperbolic.
No, I don't think so. I mean, like if you look at all of the stand-ups, they're all AI oriented in one way or another.
Right. And when we talk about Google I/O, this means Android, Google Search, all of the like Gemini and all the different AI assistants, It will set web standards of smart devices. I mean, Google is a titan in the industry, and where Google goes, most will follow these days. Yeah. So it's a big deal when they set these directions. And so they're really attempting an AI native ecosystem. So this is a big, they've made some grandiose promises in the past of things that they're trying to do that didn't always bear fruit. They're not the only big tech company that's done that in recent years, Apple. But Google actually succeeded in ways that Apple certainly didn't. But I feel like some of that is coming to fruition. Some of those promises are really going to start to see the light of day very soon. In the first area I want to talk about is Gemini basically is going to be everywhere. They're calling it Gemini Intelligence. It sounds like Apple Intelligence, right? So Gemini Intelligence is going to be in Android, Chrome, Android Auto, wearables, the XR devices, which are like the smart glasses and stuff, and augmented reality, virtual reality, that sort of stuff. And then laptops, including their new Google Book, which we'll get to talk more about that later. So I just want to stop there, Thomas, and ask your general opinion on the overall tone here.
It frustrates me so much, but they're very enthusiastic about it. They're very enthusiastic about the angle that they're going with. They feel like the system works well enough, and anybody who has an Amazon smart speaker and uses it regularly knows the frustration that I'm talking about, where you ask it to do something and then you have to think, okay, wait, how do I ask it to do this thing in the way that's going to properly get it to do the thing?
What are the magic words?
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that the way that they're building in this Gemini Intelligence, it sounds like it's much more natural language based. Yeah. And so it's not going to be as robotic in the way that you have to interact with the thing.
Right.
So giving them the benefit of the doubt, the best, because this is their big tech show. They didn't have anything blow up in their face from everything that I've been reading about it. Like nothing like really untoward happened. They didn't have any big embarrassments. It's all kind of slick. It's all kind of pre-programmed too. So that's,
nothing should go wrong.
Yeah, right. It's you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But this is a really interesting concept because I think we've gotten to the point where voice assistants don't have to be so clunky and janky the way that they have been in the past. You can really have a conversation with Gemini and get some decent response out of it, as long as it's got all of the proper hooks into the back end stuff.
Right.
And that's what it feels like they're building, is all of those proper hooks. So when you install an app, Gemini is going to get the hooks for that app that say this app plays music, this app has this kind of information, it requires these kind of premium subscriptions, and they're going to build all of that into Gemini's intelligence to be able to manage your phone.
And part of that is the MCP protocol that Anthropic came up with, but made it open source so that it's an open standard so that anybody can implement it. And that makes these AIs more than just glorified search engines. They can now do things. They can access your information. And that's the big thing is context. They have our context. When you say, I don't have to say, go into my calendar and look and see all of the dates for this. Now, then put that into I just need to say, what are my appointments for today? And just, what's my week look like? And then it can make judgments. It'll say, your kid, maybe my kid has a dentist appointment on Friday, but I'm not the one taking him. It doesn't have to surface that. These are the important things. It can make judgments and understand what I'm looking for because it understands me and my work.
Yeah. And I really like, I like the idea of AI breaking that barrier and becoming an assistant. There's a lot of issues that I have. There's a lot. I want to talk about the positives, but there's a lot of issues that I have. So I'll bring those up later. But essentially, I think this is what if we're going to talk about an assistant, what we've wanted from these devices for a while, this is what we're looking for, right? We're looking for the phone assistant that knows how we're thinking about things, what information we're looking for, and also what is available to us in our toolbox on the phone.
Right. And to free us from drudgery so we can do the things that humans are good at. Like, right. The wealthy people or people who, work at a higher level, they have assistants and they have secretaries and they have people, but that's expensive. Well, now we're going to be able to perhaps have that for everyone. You can have an assistant. Like assistant doesn't do the CEO's, well, hopefully doesn't do the CEO's job. If the assistants do the CEO's job, there's something wrong in that company. But, it frees the boss up to do the thing that's he's supposed to do instead of the drudgery, instead of the filing and the writing letters or whatever it is, making appointments. That's the idea anyway. So this is the hope of what Google is doing, what Apple's trying to do, Facebook, OpenAI, Anthropic. They're all trying to get this into our hands, because this is the next big shift, the next big revolution in the technology revolution. The smartphone was the last big one. This is the next big one. Everything changes from here on out, basically, I think.
Right.
So let's talk about some of the ways that they're changing things in 2026. One of the things is they're trying to change the paradigm where right now, when you say on your phone, when you want to do something, you open an app to do a thing. Their idea is, instead of your first instinct being open an app, your first instinct will hopefully be ask Gemini to do tasks. And then it decides what apps it needs in order to accomplish what you want. Because when I'm using a computer, I don't use a computer because I want to use an app. I don't go to my computer like, oh, I want to use Safari. No, I want to go on the web and see something, read something, find something, watch a video, write something. So it will decide what tools are needed to do the thing. But it's what my mind is about. What do I need to do? And that's how. So as we talk about these different things, that's how to kind of put this in your mind, like what they're trying to do.
I think a really good way to think about it is something like you are in a public place, you hear a song come on. And the traditional method of finding that would be opening an app like Shazam or something like that would listen to the song and then find the song. And then you would have the title of the song and you would go to Spotify and add that to your list. And the new paradigm they're looking for is for you to pull out your phone and say, hey, Gemini, add this song to my Spotify list.
Right.
and that's it. And Gemini would listen to the song. It would use whatever tool it needed to interpret what song it's hearing, find the title of that song, go to Spotify for you, find that item on Spotify, and then add it to your liked songs lists.
Right.
And that's it just cuts out all of that middle junk where you've got to do all of these other things. And that's really, honestly, there's something very appealing about that method of doing things.
Yep. I was just thinking today, I was an 80s song came up on one of my playlists, and I'm like, there's a lot of 80s music that was very good that isn't in my library. I'm like, I wish I could just say, hey, Apple lady, find me all the top 10 songs for each year of the 80s and put them in a playlist for me. But even that is too far. Hey, you know what? I want more 80s music.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as that, I don't have to think about how it's going to do it, the format, where. I just want,
Or you can even go more abstract than that, because you can be listening to a certain song and you could tell your AI assistant, I really like this kind of music. Find me more music like this.
Right.
And given all of the right hooks, so, it knows to go and find what this song is. It knows to then pull all of the tags related to this song and then add those tags to whatever tagging system finds music for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it knows to do all those things because it's got under the hood. The way these things work is they pull in all these different agents. So the MCP is kind of this fancy way of saying your natural language gets translated into a bunch of subtasks. Those subtasks all kick off using whichever agentic AI piece is most relevant. So whichever app is most relevant to solve that particular problem. And the AI kicks those things off in sequence to then complete your task. And it works. Like it really, like there's no doubt in my mind that this works. I've seen it work. I've built it. I know that I know that we are at this point, right?
I use it every day.
Yeah, it's 100%. Like it's really the way that we are kind of moving into the next realm of interacting with computers. It's really cool. I think that it's a very neat way of approaching the system. And really what needed to happen for this to be viable was this kind of switch being turned. The fact that it's Google worries me. Google's always out in front of everybody. They have a toy that they really like. Yes. They play with it for a little while and then they just drop it and move on to something else.
They get bored like a toddler.
Yeah. It's so, and then there's a ton of other problems, but yeah, I like this idea and I like the fact that they're doing it and that they're announcing it because it means that the other companies that have been sitting on their heels waiting for this sort of AI revolution or figuring out how to make this AI revolution happen are now seeing what the next step's expectation is. So yeah, it's a cool system. It's like, it's a neat way to interface everything. So yeah.
Well, let's dig into some of the specifics that they've announced. Like, so the new backbone model, that most people will use is called Gemini 3.5 Flash. There's a couple other models that are higher end, like people who have the more expensive plans like Ultra AI or what I think it's called. But the general one that most people will see is flat 3.5 Flash. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, he said it's the backbone of AI search, a new thing called anti-gravity, and the Gemini app. Now, perhaps the biggest announcement is Gemini Spark, and this is a 24/7 autonomous personal agent running in Google Cloud, which you access via the Gemini app through email or a message, and it does long-running multi-step tasks without needing your computer open, like your laptop open, your phone on, whatever. It is truly an agentic AI. So you give it you say, as an example, like, I don't want to do the shopping thing because there's something else that's kind of related, but that I want to use that for. But something like, I want you to keep track of all the information about this particular company and anything that they do, and then compile it, and then and meanwhile cross-reference that with the studies that are done, and it's always running in the background. It's like an assistant that's always going and working. It's not just a task. It finishes, presents it, it's done. This is always running.
Or if you're a person who takes a lot of photos, that you could tell it to, hey, I'd like you to keep watch on my photos, and anything that looks good for professional photos, I want you to send it to this folder, and anything that looks good for social posts, I want you to send it to this one. I'd like you to keep, I'd like you to write a summary or to tag all the people that are in any photo that I take. So you can have it just kind of working consistently in the background on stuff that you want to do, but don't think about sitting down to do, and you just want it to kind of happen autonomously.
A version of that is this other thing that they introduced called Universal Cart. It's a AI powered universal shopping cart. So as you go around the web searching, shopping, they use the example of if you're building your first PC, from scratch from components, and you're going to various merchants buying different components. You add the components to your universal cart, not necessarily to the merchant's cart. And then as you go along, it integrates with Gmail, with YouTube, and it can look at what's in the cart and say, oh, wait, that processor won't work with that cooling fan or motherboard or that sort of thing. And then in the end, you could have it because it integrates with Google Wallet, you can have it do all the purchases for you at all the different merchants. You don't have to go to each merchant and make the purchase. How that works with logins and the security of buying things, I'm not sure, but the idea is an interesting one. I'll be curious how it works in practice.
If you've validated your Google Wallet, a lot of places don't even, like, I don't even have to pull a card out anymore. I just, give it my virtual card.
Right.
And as long as it's in my Google Wallet, it clicks. It's a one-click shop.
Right.
And,
right. Like Apple Pay is the same way. Yeah. Just do Touch ID on the sensor, and it approves, and I'm gone. So yeah. Now they also announced a couple other things like the C2PA and Synth ID. These are tools for identifying AI generated images in Chrome and in search, or videos or altered images that have been altered by AI, or text, or various other things like that. So they're trying to assuage fears about the misinformation and fakery AI slop stuff that's out there. So people can say, is this real or is it fake? And so they announced those. I mean, they already had them. They're improving them, getting them out wider, making them part of more of the tools. So let's see. It raises some questions. We talked about ambient computing a few weeks ago. This idea of the devices making decisions for us, surfacing things to us, rather than we being intentional about our computing. The computing just happens around us and clues us in, or we react to it. And so that's something to be aware of. I mean, it's not. At the time, I think we said, and I want to reinforce, it's not actually bad. It's something to be aware of, to be conscious of, and not to just be pulled around by the nose by the technology. You need to be intentional about your technology use. Yeah.
And I think that's that's becoming conscious. Like, I really like the C2PA and Synth ID are getting more props. My big problem is I don't feel like enough people are using tools like that. They're just trusting the stuff that they see on the internet, and it's so frustrating because you can't. And I've been saying for years that you can't, but now more than ever, you can't trust the things. Like you even if you got a video call from me right now, I would say you need to validate it with me somehow on another system.
How do I know I'm talking to Thomas right now?
Exactly. It's such a weird world that we're moving into, but in all honesty, like the systems are getting good enough that we've got to be on our guard, and we need to be using the devices that are generating these images against the images themselves, so that we know what's available. And for anybody that doesn't know, these are really great. There are markers that will never be able to be gotten rid of in AI systems, just from the way that they work. Like, unless someone actually teaches a system to go and use a graphic design program to design something, they're just not going to be able to get away from it. I mean, I suppose that's possible. I mean, I can tell you can give it instructions to manipulate the computer to do the thing, but that's you might as well just do the thing. Right. Exactly. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. And the thing is that in that way, a computer's not creative. Like the AI systems are not creative enough to be able to do that kind of work. What they do is they synthesize, and that's what Synth ID looks for, is synthesized information that's been hauled together from many other sources and created or generated from those other sources. Right. There's a fingerprint that shows up in it, in the DNA. The other concern is can Google, as long as Google's main business is advertising, can they ever really be trusted to be your life assistant? That's the big question that ends up here. And this is where my Apple fanboy hat comes on, because Apple's business isn't advertising per se. Their business is selling you gadgets, so they can wave the privacy flag, and Google can't. Yeah, Google, that's my big concern here, is that, if anyone who's had experience with the Amazon version of this knows that there are ads included in it. It recommends things to you from time to time based on your interests, and that's you're going to find a lot of that. I can't imagine that if I were to use this Gemini assistant in the ways that I think would be best, that there's not going to be something spit back to me like, oh, hey, you don't have access to this. Would you like me to purchase it for you?
Right.
Right.
Or even something more insidious, like just like steering you towards things that are that aren't bad for you necessarily, but benefits their bottom line, or mining your data for their benefit. Those are all concerns. So moving on to some of the other stuff they talked about, the AI search, they're really digging in deep to the AI powered Google search. So they're moving away from the little box at the top, and it's more going to be, as they say, instead of a search engine, an answer engine, which I think wasn't that Alta Vista's motto back in the day, or Ask Jeeves. Anyway, so as they say, fewer blue links, more synthesized AI answers. Users may never visit websites, and that is a big problem.
Yeah,
that's a big problem because.
Well, two things there, though, because it's not good for them either, because like if they're synthesizing information from all of these sources, how are they selling ad data anymore?
Right. Like, because they sell ads on those sites. Like a lot of their ad revenue isn't just on the search pages. It's on the sites that you're sending people to. That's where they sell ads. So, yeah, that's a problem for them.
Yeah, this one concerns me in a lot of ways. And I know that I have made a concerted effort to stop just reading the AI response that's posted up for me. A lot of times it's helpful, but I really I tell my kids, I make my kids use a physical encyclopedia to look information up, because it's not so much the answer that you're looking for that's important about using a physical encyclopedia. It's all the other things you find along the way.
Yes.
And that's what's going to make you a better person. And, I feel like increasingly we are removing the journey from the exploration of fact.
It's part of the silo problem that we're getting, the algorithmic silos, we are less and less exposed to things outside of the stuff we are already wanting or looking for. Right. I intentionally seek that out because you need to. Otherwise, I've seen it happen to people who are close to me that I talk to them like, there's a whole world out there that you are not seeing, right? Because you're getting a very narrow view of it by the AIs, by the algorithms.
I think the analogy is the missing the forest for the trees kind of thing. Yeah. So they're moving just towards the one very narrow answer to their question rather than, finding the other things along the way.
And then when AI starts synthesizing, then AI becomes the interpreter of reality. That you're seeing it through AI's lens of the world.
Yeah.
That's something to be wary of in the search. I know people there are turning more toward paid search, like Kagi.com, Kagi. You can pay, and it's not AI search. It is traditional, that crawl the web, make a map of the web search engine. And, they're happy with it because they say they're getting better results. So let's talk about Android 17. All of this is coming there. Gemini intelligence, smarter voice interaction, new AI generated widgets, which I think is an interesting idea. You can create a widget on your screen to carry out specific tasks. I suppose it's like I can make a shortcut on my iPhone that I program, but I have to program it. Whereas with this, you could just say, I want a widget that does X. When I press this, I want it to do these tasks, turn on these lights in my smart home and, send a message to my wife and, that sort of thing. You can tell it to create a widget. So that's interesting. The Rambler is a new initiative that's it's right now it's Pixel exclusive, but it's that thing you were talking about. Like, instead of having to give very specifically worded commands to your AI in order to get what you want, you just speak to it in a natural voice, including with pauses and filler words like ums and uhs, and you stop and restart. If you misspeak and say it right, it doesn't stumble on it. I've been doing some text to speech with a system called WhisperFlow, and it is the most amazing text to speech dictation I've ever seen, because it understands. Not only does it take out the uhs, fix your misspeakings, it understands context of what you're talking about. So if I use a proper noun, it will properly
capitalize it,
and spell it the way you intended it to, because it's a brand name or something. And that's the sort of thing that they're coming out with. And I think this is huge, because this is what's been holding back a lot of these smart assistants is the need to program ourselves to operate the way it needs us to.
Yeah, you end up having to do the same like keyword search that you would for any kind of search device,
right?
And more often than not, for me, it's just frustrating doing that.
Yes.
And I do like this idea.
And then
the other side of this was really cool too. The create my widget. That's just wild to me, to be able to say, you know what, I really want a widget that does XYZ things. So, it's got a clock, and then it also has my upcoming appointments show up on it.
Right.
And it could make a widget that did that kind of thing, where it just had like an interface, and then it had like overlaid on the interface your appointments for the day and something like that. Like just stupid stuff that you kind of are like, it would be really nice to have this information available on my screen. And yes, you could go vibe code it, or you could just let the AI code it for you right there.
Right. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into the widget interface on my iPhone to look for, like, does this app have a widget to do the thing I want? No. And it's like disappointing. The data's there, but the programmer has to know to make the widget in advance. But if the system could do it, vibe coded on the fly, essentially, that would be amazing. So they're also adding in some the proactive assistance. So kind of anticipating your needs, as long as it's not like clippy, like annoying. hey, it looks like you're trying to, do a whatever. But I like the idea of like understanding context and being ready to help you when you Alfred, with Batman and Bruce Wayne, like ready and waiting with the thing that Bruce is going to need next. That sort of very good butler thing. So that's good. They're adding in some new anti-scam features to help people avoid a lot of the known scams that are out there. And then also some digital well-being tools. And we'll get into a little of these in a little more detail in a second. But the one thing, like, your phone knows before you ask, was a line that they used. And so they want it to be predictive, contextual, anticipatory. So something like suggesting replies. And like your phone already does this now, where like when you're in a message thread and it suggests, it wants to be better at that, to not just to have something that's sort of contextual, but to really understand what the conversation is and to anticipate the sort of thing you will say. That's the idea. So that auto completing tasks, giving you proactive reminders. So I've got things coming up and so I don't have to remember to set 3 alerts for the meeting. So I don't forget. It will be there to remind, hey, you've got this meeting. It's going to take, given the traffic, 20 minutes to drive there. You should probably leave in about 5 minutes. That sort of thing would be really great.
Yeah. I think there are aspects of this that I really like, because it's putting the AI assistant to work with the actual context of you and yourself. Because anybody who's ever seen those text replies, if you have multiple conversations going with different people, you don't want the response that you would give to your wife saying something to you to go to your mother-in-law, and
or someone you work with,
right? Or someone you work with, right? It's being able to contextualize those items and to start understanding kind of who's who in your life is very cool. It's also very creepy.
Yes. There's the danger. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other side of it too is the one thing that I really feel like we need to program out of these AIs is this obsequiousness.
Yes.
And this camaraderie that is dangerously, giving to an end user, because the context is only good in the sense that it actually understands the context, not just that it knows these are the things that you do. If I'm doing job interviews, this is just a like kind of sideways example, but you can extend this to any other thing, right? If I'm doing job interviews, I do not want my current boss to know that I am doing job interviews with another company.
Right.
But I also need the context of my current job in that other company that I'm working with. And there are ways that the AI can confuse those two contexts and cause a lot of harm.
Yeah.
If you're quick and you're not paying attention and something comes in on your watch and you're trying to respond to it while you're driving, so you just say yes, respond, because it says, hey, I have a response ready. Here's what I'd like to say. And then you say yes. And then you're like, oh, wait, did that go to my actual current employer?
Right.
And it's about this other thing. So that's what I feel like. There's still a level of it being too nice and too helpful and not pushing back on us enough. Because that's where a lot of people get in trouble with these things, is that they feel like they're being friendly. They feel like they're being friends, and what they're actually doing is just being nice. And those are two very different things.
Right. They're greasing the wheels with you.
Right.
They're creating social lubrication by the way that they are obsequious. That drives me crazy. Like, when it says things like, "Oh, you're doing great. You're really killing it today." I'm like, oh, shut up.
Right.
This is my regular day, my regular work. I don't need you to gush at me about it. Every day I've got I have it give this is what your day looks like. I have my AI robot assistant do it. And it's like, emergency, you've got to finish editing this today. Easy. I've been doing this for 8 years. I know how much long it takes to do the things. This is every week. You don't need to, it's the emotion, the attempt to be human.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the danger in that too, is that over friendliness can mask its inability to see, or the fact that it's not providing the best possible answer. Like sometimes it seems so competent, and yet you're banging your head against the wall, and you stop and you step back and you have to go, wait a minute. Is there another way we could be doing this? Oh yeah, here's this other thing that should totally work. It's like, well, then why? Why were you? Yeah. Why were you leading me down this path? Well, because it seemed like you wanted that. It doesn't understand that it should be pushing back. It doesn't. They don't push back, and that's a big issue with all of them.
Yeah, and it's dangerous in the sense that you can get started down a path that you need someone who is going to be a friend and is going to say, no, you can't do that. Or you shouldn't do that. Shouldn't is the better word, right? You shouldn't do things that way. And I really would prefer, honestly, an AI that spoke more like data than like this friendly, Valley Girl sidekick kind of thing that we have going on right now. And I think the two things that would come from that are, one, you would question it more because it would be rational, but it would be inhuman. Right. And that would be good. That would be a stopgap between you and the thing. But then also it wouldn't make you start turning around and questioning every interaction that you have with a human being that's in any way positive.
Right.
Because you're like, are you just saying that because you're trying to agree with me and make me feel good, or are you saying that because you actually agree with me?
If you want to see an example of how this can go bad, go watch the movie Her.
Yeah, right.
Man, yeah, like that. Right, that the level of I've always pushed back against the idea of treating these things like they're like giving them personalities, giving them names, referring to them by personal pronouns, he and she. I think there's a danger in that. Like, I love the technology. I love using it. It's amazing and wonderful and can be such a gift. But we human beings, we love to anthropomorphize things. We love to invest them with personality and things that they just don't have. And we did this long before there were computers. We did it to ships. We did it to cars.
Right.
We've done it to all our pets. There's a danger in that. And we have to be hyper aware of that line that we don't want to cross. So there's a few other things I really would like to get to in our examination. One of them is this digital well-being initiative they call Pause Point, and it's supposed to help reduce compulsive phone use. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Sometimes these features are there to mollify critics more than change behavior. So that remains to be seen what that will look like in practice. But they did have like some security features. One is like bank call verification. So a scammer calls you or sends you a text saying they're from your bank, and the agent will check your banking app in real time to say whether this is really from your bank or not. That will verify the information. I think that's amazing. I think that's a real cool thing.
That's phenomenal for older people who are more often the target of these scams.
Yes.
And I think just having the phone's ability to say, "Oh, hey, hold up, this something looks fishy here. This number isn't associated with your bank," or however they end up doing it. It'll be nice.
Yeah. Help the people. There's some smart glass stuff that they're doing. It's not the return of Google Glass. These aren't display glasses. They're more like the Meta Ray-Bans. They're audio glasses. So you'll speak to Gemini and it will respond, from a speaker in your ear from the glasses. They'll help with navigation, translation, that sort of thing. The glasses are, they're designed by Gentle Monster and Warby Parker. So big fashion glasses brand names, in Samsung and Qualcomm are doing the hardware inside.
Where's my heads up display? I want my heads up display, darn it.
Exactly. The interesting thing about all of this is how much of this is going to be available to work with both Android and iOS. You'll be able to pair the smart glasses with iPhones. You're going to be able to use all of there are going to be apps for all the various things for Android and Chrome OS and for iOS. They understand that there's a lot of Apple users out there who, they can choose a different AI to use. Like I could use, the hardware is just a delivery device for the AI. And that's really the thing. And not to mention the fact that a lot of what's the underlying base of this is also going to be in iPhone soon, because Apple is using Gemini as the foundation for its Apple Intelligence stuff coming up in the next OS. So I think it's really interesting that they're really going all out to make this widely available beyond their own devices. Google Book was the new thing that they talked about. So we've had Chromebooks for a while, but this is distinct from them. This is a new AI first laptop. And it will run Android, not Chrome OS.
Yeah.
And this is going to go back to the thing, instead of users launching software, the user asks for help and the AI decides what to do. And then uses whatever app that needs to do the thing.
Yeah. I'm intrigued about this because I'm most intrigued about the idea to throw Android on it. And what that tells me is that they're really relying on the fact that most users are moving very quickly away from a traditional desktop computing experience, which Chromebooks were already that. So Chrome OS was already really like web centric and navigational. This is kind of taking that idea to the next level, and that's interesting. The other side of this that's interesting is that the user interface is changing so much. We're used to mouse and keyboard and having, something between us and the screen. And I feel like what they're moving toward here is really cool. I'm hoping that one generation after this, they're going to move to just a handwriting system so that you've got, just a screen that you can handwrite on and you can interact with it in that way. So it'll be almost like a notebook, and literally just a large scale, like somewhere more powerful than an iPad or than more powerful than a tablet, just a generic it. Something more powerful than a tablet, but built around the idea of you're writing notes and the AI is assisting you with whatever project you're working on in writing those notes, doodling that project, and that to me is dangerously cool. Like the idea that I could just have a device that I'm sliding in my backpack that works like my bullet journal in all the ways that I want it to, and also has that added layer of agents and AI and connection to all of my online resources built into it.
Right.
That's really cool. Like that is a very neat angle to take on this.
It's like moving from using a tool like a hammer to having your own like carpenter who works by your side.
Exactly.
You're in your workshop with you. Like we're making a thing together. Mm-hmm. That's different. The tool is working with you, not just for you. And as you say, that's dangerously cool. That could go wrong, but it could also go very right. And it's all like many tools. It's all about how you use it, how we frame it. It's fascinating, and it'd be interesting to see in a year, 2 years, everything is going to be very different. We're going to have a very different view of all of this because so much is going to be changing so rapidly. Buckle up. Because
right.
It's so much has changed just in the past 2 years, since these things started becoming generally available. I think it's going to be even miles above, exponentially bigger.
Right.
One final category, the creative, the generative AI stuff. Gemini Omni, it'll take images, audio, video, text input, and output video from that with conversational video editing. So basically, you're a director. You're sitting in the chair and you're directing the film editor or the cameraman, and you're telling them what to do as opposed to having to do it yourself. That's fascinating to me. I kind of like that idea. I mean, I know there are reservations about, the machines making art and that sort of thing, but sometimes I'm not an artist, and sometimes I just want to visualize a thing. I can describe it, but I can't make it happen through my own talents. And I want a tool to help me make the things I visualize come to life. And I can't afford to hire a real artist to do it for me. Yeah. So, I mean, I could learn Blender, or the machine can use Blender and make the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I like what is possible there. I've also been very interested in some of the outputs from these things. Because I think as long as we keep in mind that we need to really be focused on them being conceptual pieces that lead to something else, right? Yeah. So it's me enacting a vision so that I can get feedback and then move the creative process along. Right. So really, ideally, I put together a short film and then I go pitch it to a bunch of friends that I say, this is what I'd like to do. You're really good with a camera. You're great at props. You can do the costuming. Can we get this together and let's make this happen?
Right.
And so I want us to be thinking of AI as more of a prototyping agent than a final product creator. That would be nice.
Although I think sometimes about, like memes and like there's a lot of these short video things that are out there. not to get into any controversy, but there's a controversy over the casting of Elliot Page in the new Christopher Nolan Odyssey movie as Hector, and people going, because Brad Pitt played Hector in the last one, that just seems an odd choice. And so people have been making scenes from famous action movies and putting Elliot Page in front instead of and having bad things happen. This is not the height of art, but it's these little meme-ish things that just weren't available for. Or one of my favorites was if Star Trek were in the bio in like Cajun country, and so like you recast all like Captain Kirk as a trailer park guy and like all these like things, and it's just like so many creative things that people are making. They're not making big movies. Everyone knows what it is. It's not real, and yet that's the sort of thing I'm like, this is creativity, new creativity. Like when OpenAI had was a Sora going for a while, and everything it was producing was stupid Ring video camera footage of like silly things. I'm like, this is a waste of. We're burning down forests for this. They're like, stop, And they turned it off. But like you said, there are good things you can do. We just, as a culture, as a society, we've got to figure this out. How we're going to integrate this into who we are. We can't stop it. It's not going away. We got to figure out how we want this to be part of our society.
Right. And I think it's an important step, and having a company like this push really hard to make it their primary function going forward is good and bad, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of danger there, but at the same time, it's going to make the conversation happen. The conversation has to happen in order for us to get around this concept.
So I think we can move on from there. That's the meat of what was at Google I/O this year. And as you can see, there's a lot of promise. There's a lot of concern. We need to be cautious, but it's some amazing things. I mean, there's no denying the amazing technical achievements of this sort of thing. That's
100%.
Yeah, there's no denying that. But definitely a lot of food for thought, and we must be thoughtful going forward with this stuff. So before we move on, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Matthew B., Dion R., Bill, Henry S., and Joby W. Their generous donations at GiveStarQuest.com make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting GiveStarQuest.com. So we're going to move to our picks of the week. Thomas, what is your pick this week?
So my pick this week is a tool that I've been relying on more and more for editing text files on the computer. It's Linux and Windows, which is part of what makes it
and macOS
a great pick. You can get on macOS too. There you go. If you've ever used Visual Studio Code, it's a great text editor, but it's Microsoft specific. It's kind of limited on what it can connect to. This is my pick for an alternative to that. It's called Kate, Kate. Kate Editor is where you'll find it. Probably my favorite feature. And this is a stupid feature to have as a favorite, but it's really great when you end up getting like super long text files and you just want to visually see the entirety of the text file, because you know that there's a block that's indented that you're looking for. And visually, you can find that indented block faster than you have to scroll through the whole thing. Kate has a little window on the side that's like the whole document, and you can just see the shape of all of the things that are on the side. And if it knows the language that it's in, so if it's like if it's a log file or if it's a Java code and it knows that language, it'll actually color code it for you as well. So like in Java error logs, there's probably a lot of information that comes through as green, and then there will be an orange section that's the warning section that you really want to look for. And so you can just look over on the side and see the Christmas tree of things and go, that's where I want to go. Let me go to that spot right there. So completely stupid feature that's amazingly helpful in my day-to-day interactions, both at work and in my personal projects.
And I'm going to assume it's free and open source?
It's open source. It's free. I believe that it's open source, but there are some closed source pieces to it. Okay. But yeah, that in my typical tendency, this is one that's available to you to use anywhere you want to without a cost.
Excellent. So my pick this week is something I used about a year ago on our trip to Italy that Thomas and I both were on, and it's called Plug Bug. And this is a nice little power brick, essentially, that you can work with. I mean, it says works with your iPhone or MacBook. I mean, it's from 12 South. They're Apple, first, but it's USB-C plug, so you can plug anything into it that does USB-C. But it's a USB-C wall charger. It folds up small. You can get one that's just for the US, or you can get a travel version that comes with all the different types of adapters for the different countries. And you can get a 50-watt charger or a 120-watt charger, but the difference is how many things at once it can charge. So 120 watt can do like your laptop and your phone at the same time, charge them both up. And what makes this different is it has Apple's Find My in it. So it has the Find My feature, so that if you left it behind in one of the 6 hotel rooms you stayed in the past 2 weeks, you can track it down and see which one it's in on a map, using the Find My. It's really good. Or, where's my bag that it's in? That would be the other part of that. You could also do. So the basic 120 watt US version is $80. So that's pretty good for a 120 watt power brick. The 50 watt is $50. The travel one is 130. The 120 watt travel one is 130. And if you travel, internationally, that's probably well worth it for you. So the Plug Bug with Find My from 12 South, my pick this week. So that's it for us this time. We'd love to get your thoughts on anything we talked about today, and what you thought of the Google I/O announcements. And a couple of weeks we'll be doing the Apple WWDC announcements, so we'll be able to compare where they are on those. So let us know what you thought. You can do that by sending an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC345. And of course, you can find previous episodes at sqpn.com/technology. Be sure to follow The Secrets of Tech. We're in all the usual podcast directories. We're also on YouTube, where you should hit the bell to get notifications. And it always helps if you share the show with a friend. Let them know about the show and write a review in a podcast directory, like an Apple Podcast, or rating like on Spotify. That always helps as well. Until next time, Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been great.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest. Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy: The Secrets of Stargate. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/Stargate.